This is AV Week, September 16th, 2011. Everyone, stay calm.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week.
It is time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of news and commentary for the AV industry. I'm your host, Tim Albright. With us today, for the very first time, a very warm welcome to Sarah Abrams. She is the editor of Rave Publications. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Tim. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. With us again is also Richard Fragoza. He is R.A. Fragoza.
Tim, how you doing? Glad to be back. Appreciate being back on the panel again.
Thank you. And also with us is Phil Cordell. He is the AV professional. Hello, Phil.
What's happening, Tim? Thanks for having me, man.
This is a special edition. We're going to call it the CEDIA wrap-up or the CEDIA special. All three of you went. I did not, so we're gonna kind of kick it off to you. It was held this year in Indianapolis. According to CEDIA, a little over 17,000 people attended. 400 exhibitors from 70 different countries. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Sarah. CEDIA is kind of the Infocom for Resi. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
So what was your impressions?
Well, it was pretty good attendance. A lot of, I think it's worth noting that it's down from the last 2 years, which were over 20,000 in attendance. But most manufacturers, I didn't hear any complaints. They said that the attendees were very well qualified and they didn't have as many end users or anything showing up. So I think manufacturers are pretty happy, but the attendance was a little bit down. And I think it's also worth noting, since I attended Infocom this year, that at Infocom I felt like we were kind of on the upswing from the recession. Like it went up from 2010, and I would not really feel like I felt that way about CEDIA. So, which is kind of expected. The residential market's going to take a little longer to recover, but those are my general impressions about the attendance and the feel of the show.
Now, Richard, would you take that same approach and that same look? You think it's because of the recession and everything?
I think it's two-part. One of the interesting things about CEDIA for me is that this was my first time back since 2003. And I had an 8-year layoff. So the last time I was there, it was definitely lots and lots of people. And the differences that I noticed in prior CEDIA expos was that a company would basically bring almost their entire company. So not only would it be the principals, managers, and decision makers, but an installer, a technician, a helper. And what I noticed this year, although the attendance numbers are down, what I discovered during conversations was that it was primarily more the decision makers, the principals of the company, and the people who were helping chart the progress of their companies, as opposed to it being a nice trip that they would bring their employees along with to enjoy. Because there is a festive and a social atmosphere to CEDIA, which is slightly different than some other professional trade shows that I've been to.
Is it as festive as Infocom is? I mean, because that's my only exposure to trade shows for the industry.
I would say yeah, and again, because you have fellows coming from the residential side, you have smaller organizations, so you have 2-man shops, 5-man shops, 15-man shops, as opposed to, say, an AVI SPL who brings practically their own zip code with them.
Yeah.
So there is friendships, I guess, would be a more interesting way of saying it, between the companies that occur. And the relationship with the manufacturers is slightly different because it is not a pro market. And so you have people coming from very, very different walks of life into the ESC market these days.
The what now?
CEDIA has requested we no longer refer to ourselves as custom installers in a way to kind of branch out who we are and what we do. We now do tend to refer to ourselves as ESCs, Electronic Systems Contractors.
So you're an ESC.
I'm an ESC. I'm an ESCI.
You're an ESC. An ESCI. An ESCI. Okay. Phil, are you an ESCI? Oh, go ahead.
That's what NSCA has been calling its members.
Is ESCIs?
ESCs, yeah.
ESCIs. It sounds like it sounds like a basketball team from the Big Ten.
Or some form of award.
Or yeah. Thank you for this esky. I'd like to thank all the little people. Phil, go ahead.
Yo.
How was your experience at CEDIA?
It was great, man. Apart from the identity confusion, I think we're all trying to find ourselves now in this ESC world. It kind of shakes it up. But man, I had a blast at CEDIA. We were just in and out. Pretty much just spent a little bit of Thursday night in Indy and spent our day there Friday, and it was a good time, man. As was mentioned, there are a whole lot of great, cool little mom and pop stands kind of around the peripheral of the floor. And it's really cool to see everybody engaged in that, and everybody wants to take the time to pitch their products to you, and they'd love for you to spec it in. But there's definitely a feeling of camaraderie, and I think that's almost bolstered by the fact that the economy's hurting the way it is, and we really need to kind of nurture these relationships that we're kind of interdependent upon to get out there and do business together. So I think there's a really good sense of teamwork and of camaraderie. And I dig that, man. Well,
that is important because it's I hate to say a symbiotic relationship because it lends itself to some negative connotations, but it is because as the manufacturers do better and they create better products, you guys do better as commercial integrators or eskies, as it were.
As eskies, yeah, and it definitely lends itself. I think that I think we were speaking about it a couple of weeks ago about the need for collaboration as opposed to competition. And I think the economic change has forced us to really evaluate our business models, that I can't necessarily stand off on an island anymore. These are fellows who, coming together as a project, as an industry, we need to be more willing to share with one another. And that's what I really took away from the show, is that there was a lot more openness in terms of dialogue with people that was a lot more honest than, say, 8 years ago, where everybody was more impressed about proving who they were. And this last one was more about how do we get through this together.
That is impressive. Matt Scott has joined us. He's gotten himself a hold of a solid internet connection. How are you, Matt?
Yay!
Matt is doing well. Lansing is a spotty AT&T coverage zone, just in case you're wondering.
Okay, spotty and AT&T is a redundant statement. Matt,
that's a feature. That's a feature.
That's a feature.
I know.
It's a feature they'll add to if they get T-Mobile. Matt, how was your CEDIA experience?
Yes. My CEDIA was really good. I was there for pretty much the entire show. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and kind of have to just kind of agree with what Phil and Rich were saying. And sorry if Sarah had already spoken. I missed that. Bad coverage and all, but. The biggest thing for me was just, again, really seeing that, we've really come together as an industry to really help, essentially help each other out and, just really be more honest. That was, you put it perfectly, man. Honesty is really what I would say was the biggest takeaway for me, as far as dealing with, vendors and reps and, all the manufacturers and stuff, is that less was on, please come work with us and do X amount of dollars. It was more of, you tell us what you need and we'll be there behind you as much as we can to help you do that and accomplish that goal, which, again, was something that was really neat for me to see, being as this was only my second CEDIA. It's very encouraging to see that, as opposed to just strictly like a dollar and cent point of view that a lot of the reps and manufacturers have had in the past.
Okay, so all of you had a good time. It sounds like there's a lot more collaboration and a lot more not hand holding and kumbaya, but hey, let's kind of work together and we can work through this recession together. Sarah, you went to both. You went to Infocom and CEDIA. Was there something that kind of jumped out at you when it comes to a product that maybe you didn't see at Infocom?
A product at CEDIA that I didn't see at Infocom?
Yeah, that kind of jumped out at you or wowed you or knocked your socks off.
Well, honestly, I didn't think there was like one specific technology that really jumped out at CEDIA this year. A couple themes I saw, I guess, were there's a lot of retrofitty type applications, especially wireless audio, and some more affordable products like the Lutron shades, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot. Of course, the 4K projectors are new kind of to the CEDIA market because we saw a prototype last year from JVC, but this is the first time that both Sony and JVC brought those products to market. And we've seen those in the commercial market for a couple of years also, but it was pretty noteworthy to see those at CEDIA this year. So I think technologically that's probably the most interesting thing, but
so the 4Ks are working their way into the residential realm.
They are. They're shipping this fall.
Very cool. Matt, what was one product or something that you saw that kind of jumped out at you?
The biggest thing that I saw was definitely the Lutron shade. And I am a Lutronite. I'm a huge Lutron fan, so I'm probably slightly jaded. But to me, that was probably the biggest thing. The concern I have with seeing like the 4K projectors, as cool as they are, we still don't have any content for it. So I can't get overly excited about something that is going to be really, really hard for me to sell. It reminds me the same as when we first got Blu-ray players in Canada. There was 6 different discs in the entire country that we could get. So it was like, all right, buy this really expensive, cool new thing, but you're not going to have anything to watch on it for quite a while. And, I know a lot of that is just Canada and whatnot, but for me, the biggest thing was definitely the Lutron shade. And the reason I say that is because, it's not insanely, that revolutionary in the sense that it's, it's another motorized shade. It is a cell shade. I don't know if anyone else is actually making cellular motorized shades at this point. But the biggest thing to me is that not only is it a motorized shade that's $299, it's a wireless motorized shade that's $299. It's something that I can go and sell, tomorrow to really any of my customers. It doesn't have to be just the high-end customers that I currently sell shades to, because you can go to Home Depot and buy a cell shade that's going to be $200. That's just a regular, semi-custom off-the-shelf cell shade. I can give you a motorized one for an extra $100 or, whatever it works out to be. Yeah. In the end. It opens a huge, huge market that, we can get in and to sell with, because, as much as we'd love to think that every single one of our customers is totally digging, that $50,000, $100,000 media room, most of them aren't. But there are tons of people that we can, start on the automation phase with, a product like this that we can literally get in and get out for not next to nothing, because, it's still a couple $100, but it's really next to nothing. Okay. So that was probably the biggest thing for me. And I'm done my Lutronite spiel.
I am not a shade guy, so I understand my question. What is a cellular shade?
A cellular shade is it's the honeycomb style shade. Okay. That kind of goes up and down. It's not a pleated shade necessarily, but it kind of is. It's your standard, honeycomb that they sell at the depot, that they sell just about anywhere.
Okay. So it's not like some real new fancy technology. It's just the type of material. Okay.
No. Now the wireless side that they brought is
the new
fact
phase.
that it's wireless and it runs on standard batteries.
Excellent.
Actually, I have a question for you, Matt, about those as an integrator. The $299 version is actually the one they're going to be selling retail?
That's a retail cost.
And
it's an.
Well, I was curious if, as an integrator, you feel any concern about the fact that motorized wireless shades are now a product available to, online or in Home Depot to your customers.
I'm not really, because it's not something that too many people are going to go and get themselves. Mm-hmm. It's the same as the fact that you can technically go buy, a URC MX 450 or something like that, which is one of the, entry level remotes that we occasionally will stock. You can go buy that anywhere. You can go buy a Harmony. And yeah, there's always going to be people who are going to try and do what we do themselves. And more power to them. It is good for the industry because it just brings more awareness. But the difference will be is they may get those shades, and even if they go to the Home Depot and buy 3 of those shades and get them with the little, basic IR remote, that's great. Because down the road when they look at it and, they're looking at another shade or they got the brochure, And you go, oh, I can integrate this with all my lighting. Well, I don't think I have the lighting to do that, but that would be really cool. And then they're going to call someone like me or, any other ESC out there. And, it just starts a conversation. For me, it's one of those things where shading has been a not unattainable thing, but it's such a steep entry point that only the highest of our customers really actually buy it. We spec it a lot, and they look at it, and it's always the first thing to get cut because, it's $1,600 a window.
Oh.
So, and not always, but, that's a really good base starting point that we usually tell. And again, I'm Canadian, so my numbers may be off for all of our American friends. But, even if it's, $1,200 to $1,600 a window, that can get very pricey very quickly.
Yeah, because you're not going to do just one window.
Yeah.
No, you're always going to do 2, 3, 4, whatever. So it instantly becomes, and honestly, the people who are buying motorized shades, they're not buying the entry-level fabrics. They're buying the cool stuff. They're buying all the, gallery collection or whatever it is. So, yeah, those numbers do get up there pretty quick. So if they're able to buy something and just open the market, I think I was speaking with David Weinstein, who is their product developer and head of their shading department. He told me, and he was supposed to get back to me with the exact numbers, and I don't think he had yet, but it's something like there's 180 million windows and households in America that fit the price point and the market point that they're marketing these shades to. And that's just a ridiculous number of opportunities. And yeah, not everyone's going to buy it. Not everyone's going to want it. But if they're able to attain it and get their hands on it, that's just better for us. It's just like lighting. The more people that know that they can actually automate their lights, it doesn't matter if they're buying Crestron, Vantage, Lutron, whatever. The more people that know, it just opens the market for all of us.
I think Matt brings up a good point, and I think it probably be summed into the fact that it's a value-added service. Again, it is another way for an AV integrator and ESC to come back to a client, to find a new client, and again, the concern always is, gosh, a new product's coming in, it's going to decimate our industry, we're going to lose profitability. The iPad, that was the first thing. The sky's falling because the iPad has come through. It's saved some companies in some respects. And when we talked about earlier about the, getting away from the us versus them approach, which was embracing an entry-level approach or a consumer-level approach as a method to educating them to what else is available. And Matt did nail it. I mean, you're talking at $1,200 to $1,500 per window. Not only that, but you need an electrician. You need to get wire to it. So it is a construction project to put in a shade in an existing home.
Okay, so hang on for a second, and I'll ask all three the integrators here, or Eskies. So let's say that the shade on average, let's say it's $1,500. I don't care if it's Canadian or American; it's irrelevant at this point. And I don't have a calculator in front of me. So Rich raised a good point with the electrician. How much then more is that going to cost me? Is that $1,500 just the product? Does it include the labor of the electrical contractor I have to pay, or is that the $1,500? That's it.
Well, I think the number represents more of an all-in number.
No, go ahead.
When people are budgeting. Because the first question is, how much does it cost?
Yeah.
You never want to do the, well, it's this, but then, but wait, there's more at the end of the bill. And so and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, but the budget estimates tend to be that is along with paint patch, electrician, what your rough number is going to be in order to perform some form of window covering over this specific area.
Yeah, and that's exactly where like our 1,600 starting point comes from, because most of our shades will start somewhere in the 1,200 to 1,300 range. I know with the shading line that we offer from Lutron, most times we don't technically actually need an electrician because it's just low voltage going up to the shade and then plugging in outside. If we're doing larger stuff, that's another story, but that's another story. So we usually say, 1,600 is a good ballpark, and it's going to cover, your entry shade, depending on size. It's going to be, your installation time and, any repairs that need to happen. And then, of course, the sky is really the limit from there because they can go, like, we can meet a designer who says, you know what, I have this perfect swatch from a couch. We were going to do shades. We can, find a product to use that swatch and make that work for them. If they have the budget for it, we can do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an expensive product.
But not anymore.
No, not anymore. Now we can come in, and again, a cell shade is definitely different than, a motorized roller or a Courbet or, a motorized Venetian.
Yeah, but
it is
a Harman remote control is much different than a TPS-6X from Crestron.
Oh, exactly. And that's what's so great about it is because we can start down that line.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of Lutron dealers who, we all push shades very heavily because we know how not only cool they are, but how energy efficient and all this other stuff that we can go on about. But it's such a hard sell just because of the price point. So again, the ability to have something like this that, whether it starts at, and that $299 is an actual just retail cost that doesn't include installation. But when it's wireless, I think Andre told me it was like 5 screws for the standard size window. That's half an hour. So you bill your customer an hour. Our $299 window just became, say $399 or whatever, you guys are charging per hour. But, $399 to get a window installed, done, out the door, really is not bad. Not to mention,
I was going to say, not when you compare it to $1,600. So
No, it's and to be honest, like as I'm sure every other ESC does, we deal a lot with the designers, and most of the shades that the designers end up speccing, they're not $1,600, but they're not $150.
Yeah.
Like the average, our average customer that's working with a designer is spending some good money on drapery products and shading. So as soon as, like, I know I showed this to, excuse me, one of our designers that we work with yesterday, and she was blown away when I told her the price. She's like, I can use this on every job. Heck, half the blinds that, we can spec a blind from IKEA that costs more than this. And I'm like, yeah, you can.
That is IKEA.
Is that the Farfig-Nugan version?
Oh, all right, stop.
Yes, exactly.
All right, we've got 4K projectors. We have really cool, really inexpensive shades. Phil, what was one thing from Cedia that kind of knocked your socks off?
Well, I mean, I think I was more or less overwhelmed by the number of people rolling out, Android apps and, an integration of mobile and tablet. I mean, I think we all know that it's coming and it's here, and that's something, that was really a super bread and butter item of the establishment for a long time. And now, everybody's in on it. And I think, it's pretty obvious that that's kind of the wave of the future. But, everybody from, Xantec that I'm used to using just their IR emitters, honestly. That's what I use. But they got all kinds of stuff, man. In-wall stuff for your pads and, it's just crazy.
So is that something you see as kind of a savior, or is that oh my gosh, here comes Android and all these cheap controllers?
No, I mean, I think it's inevitable, and it doesn't bother me. To me, it's just like, that's the future, and I would expect that everybody's going to want to try to get a piece of that, So it doesn't really bum me out at all. Although as a programmer myself, I'm used to the traditional stuff, programming up a regular touch panel, and I've had to kind of hone my chops for some of the mobile apps and things of that nature, and it's fun. But we fear change, right?
Yeah, we do.
ESC, everybody stay calm. It's okay. Things are changing, but it's okay. So.
All right,
Anyway.
so explain this. You guys keep using this, and I've already forgotten. What does ESC stand for again?
Electronic
Systems Contractor.
As opposed to?
Marble contractor?
No. What did you call yourselves before?
Custom installer.
It used to be the CI market.
CI market.
Custom
Now it's
installation.
Electronic Custom Systems? What was it again?
ESC.
Electronic.
Just call us. I still
Contractor.
refer to myself as the VCR repairman. So
There we go.
AV guy.
You know what? I
Hey.
can remember that.
I can hang a TV.
I answer to AV guy, TV guy. Hey, you.
All right, we're talking with Sarah Abrams. Thank goodness, because I'd lose my mind. Here's Matt Scott, Richard Fergoza, and Philip Cordell. He is the AV professional. All four went to CEDIA, which was in Indianapolis this year. Richard, what was one of your takeaways from this year?
Well, I'll take a quick 30 seconds. I broke mine down into 3 parts that I was looking at. One was the entry-level consumer. One was my love, which is high-end audio and video. And then the last one was tools for the ESC, or the custom installer. The mass market appeal of these iPad interfaces, everything from, new wall mounts to URC coming out with an iPad app, wireless AV. I mean, all of these entry points that we're finding that are, new markets that I was talking about before, where a ESC can come back and approach an existing client or potentially find a new client that they couldn't before because of the price points for some of these products. On the higher end, Kaleidoscape. They just introduced their new download store. That is a way for them to get Blu-ray, 1080p content directly onto the servers themselves. And for me, the Kaleidoscape system in a performance audio video room or in a whole house is the one device that actually works. You're not cobbling things together. And once again, Michael Malcolm is looking at how to make this device give you the best audio and video performance and still meet what people are looking for, which is not necessarily having to go and buy physical media and then put it in a changer, which they have the new built-in changer as well, which I was crazy about. 4K and 4K, as they are calling it. Fantastic. 3D, fortunately, I think they're starting to calm down on 3D.
Thank goodness.
And they're returning to, we want to make this as bright and beautiful as possible. Runco's new projector was amazing.
I totally agree.
Amazing. And it was big, right? It was a cinema experience at home. Period.
That was the best projector demo I've seen in 8 years of CEDIA.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sarah, what made it so great?
It was just so bright, it was blinding, and they showed a really old movie, I think Chitty Chitty Bang Bang from the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And it was so bright and so clear, and the scaling was beautiful. And then the 3D demo they did was also really fantastic. I think their brightness specs are confusing to me, but they're saying 20,000 lumens in 2D and 4,000 in 3D, and it's a $200,000 projector, but wow. Just unbelievable.
At the end of the day, it was bright. And again, we're talking about these markets. We are still in, there are still clients who are looking for that. And I think the fear in an economic downturn is to immediately shy away from that and to scale back your expectations when, we got into this because we love it. And these are the pieces that, even if it's just a proof of concept to show to people, it winds up becoming okay, well, maybe that's out of my range, but what else is in there? And next thing you know, they're looking at the midline piece as opposed to coming in with a small level, an Epson projector for $450. And that's really the only comparison that they have at that point.
Wow.
And, I was blown away by it. But, other companies. JVC's was great. Digital Projections was great. Sim2. And Matt and I actually sat in on a 3D demo that, again, they're now moving into other refinements of the technology. And that's really what it is. Refinements of existing technology that we're starting to see some differences. One of the things that was a warm spot for me was kind of like The Godfather. It's just when I thought I was out, they brought me back in. The return of Sandy Gross, who was the founder of Definitive Technology. He's the guy who first made bipolar cool with his bipole speakers. He just launched a brand new company called Golden Ear. There was another company called Solus, who 20 years ago, Phil Clements from Clements Audio, he developed an in-wall speaker that used ribbon tweeters. This was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I still have, I sold them. I was one of the first Solus dealers in the country. I returned to a job not more than about a year ago. Those things are still going strong. aluminum baffles, the whole thing. I mean, this was trend-setting stuff that
Yeah.
we're still now only seeing trickling in at times. And Kef had their Blade speaker, which was beautiful. I think Rave has some photos and pictures of it. So that's on the high end. But then in terms of developer tools and CI tools for ESCs, monitoring solutions, networking solutions, access networks, pre-configured residential network systems. Here you go. Here's the entire kit. If you've got 50 network devices, by the time you throw in your Apple TV and your iPad and your iPhone and your Kaleidoscope and your control system, we have a solution that allows you to go ahead and just plug it in and go, that you can control, as opposed to relying on an outside IT contractor.
Wow.
Claire Controls, again, another monitoring solution. They are the guys who have gotten a lot of press for being one of the first in the cloud control systems.
Yeah.
Great concept. I'm actually going to be putting one in my home. I think that it is something that we're going to see more and more of. They're just the first of many. And then who is it? Cyber Solutions? Again, another monitoring system with a graphical front end that you or your user can basically check the health of your system, which in these economic times, we keep talking about service contracts and value-added uses and ways to support a client. Well, these are also ways to prevent truck rolls, which for me, long-term savings with the integrators that I consult to, anytime that you can actually sell a product that on top of it prevents you from having to put outlay, either in resources and manpower or cost, that's a win-win at that point. And those were, and then the last one was D-Tools. Just released SI6, their system integration drawing package, and again, in Pro, documentation is king. In Resi, you hope for it, and it is a tool that, again, in a drag and drop interface, allows for people who maybe aren't CAD proficient to be able to professionally put together their designs, their as-built, everything from their inventory tracking and pricing and proposals. And, again, a phenomenal tool. And not just because Adam Stone, the CEO, is one of my dear friends. It's a great product.
It's a great product. Besides that. Go ahead.
Oh, and then Autonomic Controls. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
Great product. Basically an all-in-one music solution streaming box, which they're now adding video to, where from an integrator standpoint, works with Control 4, works with Crestron, AMX, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it prevents having 7 boxes in a system.
Wow.
So you can have your Pandora, your Sirius, your Spotify, your iTunes, your licensed iTunes library, and it synchronizes your libraries if you have multiple residences. Some people do. Imagine that.
How much is that, Rich?
Entry point for a 2-zone system, I believe, is like $19.99.
Really?
And that's with a 1 terabyte hard drive. All of the music streaming services built in. It will play either Windows Media or your iTunes Music. There's a synchronization tool, so you can just sync your music from your computer directly to the device. So anytime you rip a CD into your laptop or your PC, within about 5 minutes, it's already sitting there in your music program. I mean, it's things that work. Again, much like Kaleidoscope, Autonomic is the sweetheart entryway of getting music into a distributed room. In less of a headache of having, like I said, 7 boxes.
Yeah, you and I might have to talk after this. So you can sell me one.
No problem. As can Matt.
As can Matt.
Yes.
I'll give each of you $1,000 and you can split it. So.
Exactly.
Ooh. That's a good deal.
Just don't tell my wife. How about that? All 4 of you guys. Obviously, Sarah does. She's the editor of Rave, huge AV industry publication and blog. The rest of you guys are starting getting in. Phil does the video and also does blogging. Matt and Rich, you guys also do some blogging. There's something that came across, I know, at least 2 of our desks that was an interesting piece of marketing. Let's put it that way. What it was is it was an email, and I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it was an email directed to the email person. So in other words, when I got one, it was directed to Tim. When Matt got one, it was directed to Matt. It says, thanks for, we hope you enjoyed Cedia. Thanks for stopping by our booth. If you're going to blog about some stuff from Cedia, please mention us and our product. The only problem with this is the fact that, A, I didn't go to Cedia. When Matt got it, he hadn't stopped by these people's booth. Is this an issue, guys, or is it just kind of just more annoying as, a Cedia version of spam?
I'll pipe in.
Okay.
I was livid, and I was absolutely livid about this. I personally found it irresponsible, and coincidentally enough, I received that email and immediately started writing about it. Uncle Richie was hot under the collar on that one.
Get him, Uncle Richie.
And Richie says it was unprofessional. It was and this was from a PR company. This was not even the manufacturer.
Exactly.
This was the manufacturer's public relations company. So that is what really got to me more than anything else, is that this was a manufacturer who basically just took the leash off of their PR company, and they went nuts. And I actually did respond in kind with this company and dealt with them directly to kind of point out that you really don't want to alienate your customer, especially in this day and age. People very much don't like being talked at right now.
Just out of curiosity, Rich, what was the company's response?
We're sorry, but that was about it.
Okay.
Really?
It was. I didn't expect it to go that far. Maybe later it'll change, but I don't know that they necessarily expected. I don't know how many people actually responded in kind, but it was disappointing, to say the least.
Sarah, you guys, I remember when I was in radio, we used to get PR releases all the time, and for us, it was something to write on the back of more than anything. Is this something that you guys see a lot of, or is this something new in the AV industry?
Okay, honestly, when I saw this email, it took me a while to figure out what was offensive about it, because I get so much stuff like this that I didn't even bat an eye. I mean, I get PR agencies are just trying to manage their lists. I don't know. I mean, I understand. I can tell you this is not even by far the most offensive PR stunt that I got regarding this Cedia.
What was?
Well, before the show, I got an email. I don't even remember what company it was. It was a small company, but they had a PR agency, I think just one for the industry. And they sent me an email that said, "Thanks for your phone call. I'm replying with an email about making a booth appointment. Please let me know your availability." And I never called or emailed them.
That's wonderful.
But it made you think.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, not replying and making a booth appointment with you, obviously.
Am I supposed to be meeting with them? Maybe I am.
Yeah, it was very, I was like, yeah, I don't think that I made an appointment with you or called you, because, I mean, people call me and then I respond. I don't call people proactively to make appointments usually. So that was probably the worst I got. I mean, I get a lot of emails like this after shows that were like, "Sorry we missed you," or when I did stop by, or because they didn't scan my badge, which is all this is. It's based on badge scanning and lists, and these people, they're even paying attention to what they're sending out.
I think the hard thing was that, as like, I don't know about you guys, but we get a little bit of pre-show garbage that comes in, come see this, come see that, from companies that, a lot of times I've never even heard of, which is always good form. But, for you, Sarah, being a writer, I understand you getting a lot more of it than, say, we do as dealers. But I gotta agree with Rich. The thing that was frustrating to me was that I'm not yes, I have a minor little startage of a blog, but
yeah, were you guys registered as press? Because I'm surprised that they...
No, we weren't.
And
that's weird to me. Because when I end up on a press list, I get stuff like this, but that's unusual.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah, no,
and I don't want to say that,
absolutely,
you have it coming as press, but, as a press writer, of course, they're going to send you everything and anything they can to try and get press. But to me as a dealer, granted, I already do not carry this company, but this did not make me want to carry this company at all. This is just one of those, again, this day and age where we have everybody and anybody vying for our time as dealers and trying to get us to buy from them, buy this, buy that, whatever. This is just not to me, this is not a good play, because I don't think I was as upset as Rich was, but I got it and looked at it and said, what the heck is this? I didn't stop by. I actually don't really like you guys anyways, but if I did, this would just put me off even more. It would have been fine if they sent me an email saying, hey, if you're looking at some stuff, please look at our product because we'd love to work with you. That would have been one thing.
Yeah.
But the huge, write a blog and talk about how great we are. It's like, I would normally write a blog saying how bad you are and why the product I sell is better than your product. But this just it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, let me see if I can kind of maybe put this in a nutshell. Sarah said this before. You get a lot of press releases and, hey, mention us or do this, that, and the other. In the world of broadcasting, you get a lot of press requests, and it is, you get books sent to you, you get stuff like that, and maybe this is just it's a combination of two things. First of all, you have the world of blogging, and it is evolving into an honest-to-goodness piece of journalism. It is a journalistic arm of whatever industry it is that you're covering, whether that is the entertainment industry with Huffington Post or it's the AV industry with Rave Publications. It's a broadcast and a journalistic entity. That being the case, it's going to get inundated, and so maybe they made a mistake, which Rich said the company said they were sorry, and said, you know what, anybody that goes to CEDIA, just assume they're all bloggers. And send them something.
I think that's what they did. I think either intentionally or accidentally, they sent a pressy email to an attendee list.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are people that don't have the
sounds
ones
like.
that got this.
I was registered as press, and I didn't actually receive this.
Yeah, actually,
Which is funny, right?
I didn't get this either.
Yeah, and you figure that the PR guy took a shot, right? He was like, if I can get them a bunch of interviews or a bunch of write-ups, then I can probably raise my rate. And this time, it just didn't work out for him.
So let me get this right. There's probably an email out there somewhere saying, please use our product that Phil and Sarah are going to get in the next couple of days.
Yes.
Instead of the
ESCs, when you're on site, remember to mention our product.
I can tell you that when I read this email, it didn't make me very comfy.
Very nice. Very.
We
very
could have
nice.
an entire podcast about PR people in the CE industry if you wanted.
Oh yes.
But the majority of PR people, again, run very, very tight ships. And again, and this was an anomaly, and every industry has that. PR is not going to be any exception. Again, it was less about the PR company for me and more about the manufacturer, that they weren't necessarily checking what their promoting wing was doing at that point.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And that's really where, again, like I said, I had issue as an ESC, as a consultant. Again, I'm not a professional writer, and that was the whole point. Is that it was, again, it just felt, again, if it was accidental, that's fine, but it felt very unscrupulous. Was probably the best word I could use.
Yeah. Moving on, the Tom LeBlanc from Commercial Integrator wrote a piece called "Is Social Media a Waste of Time?" And he goes on to say that no, not really, because you have to have a social media presence. Both Phil and all four of you really are involved in the social media world. Sarah, you guys have a social media blueprint. At Rave Pubs. Is social media a waste of time, or is it something that as integrators and as AV professionals, not just integrators, but also commercial and resi both, or eskies, is it something that they have to be involved in, regardless of their personal preference of social media?
I don't think they have to be involved. Our blueprint is what I consider a resource, because I don't think that anyone has completely figured out social media for B2B spaces. But as any of the people we're talking to here today can tell you, there's a very healthy community of AV people on Twitter and on social media. And if you're new to the industry or you want to meet new people, it's a great place to find people you want to talk to and exchange information. And what I tell everyone who asks me about social media in our industry is that, if nothing else, it's a great place to listen, both to sometimes to your customers, but also your competitors. Press in the industry is all over it. I think there's a lot of good information on there, so I think it would be a mistake to not be on there, at least a little bit, but it's not like you can't have a successful business without it.
Phil, you have quite a few followers. Do you use it as more of a megaphone, or are you using it as an interaction piece?
Man, I use it honestly as an interaction piece, and I don't know that I would be here with you guys right now if it weren't for social media. I just kind of hopped on the Twitter, and actually Matt Scott was the one who turned me on to AV Tweeps.
Oh, wow.
And said, man, yeah, man, hashtag AV Tweeps. That's where we're at. And that, ever since, that's kind of like there's our channel, my channel to the people. And it works both ways. There's definitely a megaphone type quality to it. You want to blast something out and let everybody interactivity that it provides is stuff that, the quick turnaround time, all that. We've got email, but it's not as much fun, if you ask me.
No, it's not.
As confining yourself to 140 characters or something, And if you look at what Facebook's doing to the world, the way that it's connecting us all, it really is the future. So why wouldn't our businesses be there too,
So Phil got turned on to the AV Tweeps by Mr. Matt Scott. Matt and Rich, what do you guys use? Twitter and also Facebook. Matt has a very nice Facebook splash page, which he showed me the other day. What do you guys use the social media tools for?
I use social media for a couple of things. I use it both to connect with our AV Tweeps, because I know for me, especially being in Canada, when I first got into the industry, I didn't know anybody. And, I was in the industry for quite a few years before I really started to actually develop any relationships with anybody else in the industry, which is a little interesting and kind of surprising, but notwithstanding, that's where I was at. So the one thing that was huge for me was when I did, I've been on Twitter for, back before it was cool, and back before anybody knew what to do with it, for heaven's sakes. And, I did find the AV Tweeps and just ended up meeting a bunch of you guys. And, that's actually where I've now really developed the majority of my relationships in our industry. And it's been really, really good for me in that frame. The other side of it is that we do use like our Omega Audio Video Twitter account and our Facebook account. We do use it as well for both a little bit of marketing and a little bit of, actual, working towards creating relationships with customers. Facebook is fairly good for that. We found it's been really big from a more of an information piece. We do find that a lot of the younger customers that are more entry level and looking to start in our industry, not from a work point of view, but from a consumer point of view, they're more likely to stay on our Facebook page than they are to actually go to our website. And I don't have any huge stats or anything for that. That's what we've found. So we're in the midst of, continually trying to upgrade our Facebook page so that those customers who are in that, really under 35 bracket, once they get on Facebook, they don't really want to necessarily leave Facebook. So we're trying to provide some basic or a little bit beyond the basic information on our Facebook page so that they can actually, learn a little bit more about us without leaving Facebook, which they seem to like.
Now, do you get interaction from your customers, or is it more interaction from the AV Tweeps?
On our Facebook page, we get a little bit from customers. We get a lot of views. The interaction on Facebook has been it's been spotty. As far as Twitter, we get tons of interaction with our Facebook Tweeps, but we also do get some interaction with customers. I know I was on the social media panel at CEDIA, and I told a story about one of the customers that we actually found, discovered, and sold 100% through Twitter.
Wow.
Which it wasn't a big job by any means, but it was a nice little. Again, it was that
Validation.
and it was that under 30 market that we're trying to hit, in addition to everybody else.
Is that the magical age, 30, 35?
Well, I don't want to say it's the magical age, but it's an interesting age because you get a lot of people who are on it at that age point, anywhere in there. Not against anyone who's older in our age point, but
Be careful, Matt.
That's why I said it very delicately. I already, mess with John Siaka enough. But, it's one of those things where that is a huge age demographic that's on Twitter that are using it, and that's becoming their main source.
Yeah.
So it's something for us, again, this guy was that age point. We found him. He was local. And not only did I enjoy completing the entire transaction over Twitter, he loved it because he didn't have to go to a retail store. He didn't have to, get off the couch. He could do it at times that were convenient for him. And again, it was a lot more fun than sending a bunch of emails back and forth.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I'm not, and I do get asked this a lot, especially when I mention that story, is, well, how are you going to sell this every day from Twitter? And you're not. And anyone who thinks they are is going to most likely fail miserably because Twitter is one of those places where, like, for me, the way I view it is it's like 95% communication and engagement and maybe 5%, maybe, where you're actually trying to sell something. And it's something where, like, for this project, yeah, the reason we were able to sell this guy his gear was because he posted something in reference to one of our big box stores and the lack of selection. And I started a conversation with him on it. So if I hadn't have done that, then we wouldn't have got anywhere.
But it was you being proactive, though. It was you seeing that and engaging him.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, we have sent out one thing that we do a lot is if we're gearing up for a big job and we have boxes full of speakers or, boxes full of gear or whatever, a lot of times I'll shoot a picture real quick, post it up to Twitter and say, man, I hope tomorrow's going to be nice because we're digging in all these in-ground speakers. It's going to be awesome. And that, again, it's not like a huge sales point, but it's something that, catches people's attention. And they see this box full of, like, Polk, Stat 30s or something, or, whatever it is, or they see a bunch of Crestron gear or hopefully Lutron gear because we love selling Lutron. But, it's just one of those things where it catches their attention and they're going to do it and follow along and hopefully, again, just start a conversation. That's something that's been big for us. No, you're probably not going to sell a boatload of gear and a boatload of projects through Twitter or through Facebook. But what you are going to do is you're going to, build your reputation as the, maybe that go-to company in your city or in your region who, is going to hit that big market.
Well, not only that, but you're going to engage your
exactly. You're engaging your community. Yeah. And as long as you're willing to, give something out there and, throw something out as far as, be helpful and not, it's one of those things. If you, again, try and commoditize the entire thing and, literally just try and get a $115 service call out of some guy who's complaining that his, cable system sucks, you're not going to get anywhere.
No.
But as you start to build that and, you just give a little bit back into that, local Twitter community or whatever, area you're reaching, it can reap some very good benefits. And that's, for us, that's what it's done. And that's what we've seen happen. So it's good for us from both a business side, from both a personal side, as far as us just being able to connect with all of you lovely people, and my hair. But,
and your
it's
hair.
just, and my, yeah.
If you want to follow.
I was waiting for a slot to, start of the call.
At Matt Scott's hair. Quote, at Matt Scott's hair. Follow it if you would, please.
Soon getting its own Facebook fan page.
That would be excellent.
Hey, no, it's there.
Oh, it's there. Excellent.
It is there. It's just I haven't done. I was bad. We were in our social media class and Kim mentioned Facebook pages and stuff, and I got thinking, and somebody said something about my hair, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have a Facebook page for my hair. That can't stand.
Oh,
so middle class, I'm sitting there. I think Rich has a picture of me doing it, and created a page for my. There's nothing on it yet, but feel free to visit.
Just put your hair and your products. So, a couple months ago, real quick, guys, Hanley Wood, which was a company that ran Pro AV magazine, shuttered it, basically. I mean, the website was still active and the stories were static from the end of Infocom, but they pretty much closed the doors on it. Something that I think is cool this week, and we'll start around with Sarah. They got bought, and the Pro AV was acquired by New Bay Media. New Bay does a lot of publications in the AV industry. Sarah, is this a good thing for the AV industry, or is this, it's another magazine?
Well, I'm honestly not sure what it means yet, if anything, because New Bay already prints several commercial publications, so I'm not sure that they're going to, resume printing Pro AV so much that they just bought the rights to, like, the domain name and the old content, because, I mean, like, the editor, Brad Grimes, has already moved on. He's going to go work for Infocom, and a lot of the other writers are freelancers. So, I mean, to me, Brad Grimes is really, like, the heart of Pro AV, and it was one of my favorite print publications, but I don't know if it's going to come back in the same way that it was. I'm not sure the industry needs another one. I don't know. I mean, it could be good if they brought it back, but I really think they're just honestly going to make sure that no one else buys that content and starts it back up again, and integrate some of the stuff that's standing into, like, systems contractor news, which really doesn't make a big difference to readers.
One way or the other. Rich, do you think that they should start it back up, or should they start an Esky magazine?
The Esky version, the Eskanites. We're gonna preach to the masses. At this point, I mean, let's look at the fiscal reality. There's the fact that so there's a retraction that's occurring, and publication's one of them, and I view it as a consolidation, and if it's a way for me to get better information by kind of distilling the best that you can from these publications into one, so if Pro AV, it becomes Pro AV / systems contractor or / sound and video contractor and Pro AV, I'm all for it. If I have two magazines who are basically giving me the same information, but the page numbers are different, I'm going to have to pick one or the other at that point. There's only so much time that I have to keep myself abreast. And so, at this point, I think it is. I think it's a good thing. I'm glad that at least the name is still there. Even though, like you just said, if Brad isn't there in the spirit and the heart and the soul, but at least it gives an opportunity to show that, the companies aren't just, falling by the wayside one by one. I mean, if anything, it's a show of solidarity that, yes, we still are continuing, even though it's not the way that everybody would want it to be optimally. At least it's a start.
Well, let's go around the room here. Phil, what do you read, if anything? And do you watch? Do you listen? How is it that you get the information about the industry?
Well, I get a lot of press releases, but honestly,
well done.
I check out rave pubs, man. I read Audioholics.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's. I rely a whole lot on in the field experience. So, I try to stay hip as to what's going out with the new products and all that stuff. But, I'm in the field every single day pretty much installing stuff and have the opportunity to kind of make my own determinations as to what I like, what I don't like. And a lot of times, we've been using some of the same equipment for years, whether it be Extron or something, because it's proven to be good stuff. And I just,
works.
Yeah, I don't even think twice about doing it. But for other items, that's one of the things at CEDIA I saw this year. There were so many other companies now introducing ways to distribute your HDMI and your DVI stuff. There's a lot of options out there these days, and that's when I need to go to some of these media outlets and kind of see the reviews that are being pushed out about them.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, what do you read?
Outside of, I always listen to AVWeek podcast for sure.
Thank you very much.
That's the first, top of the knot. I'm like Phil. I read tons of just about anything that Rave Pub puts out. I think I get every single one of, 6 or 7 newsletters now, in addition to everything else. I do still read a lot of Sound and Vision, Sound and Stage, pretty much anything that's House of Worship, Pro AV, live video, I at least get and try to skim through the majority of them. But for me, a lot of it just, as Phil said, comes down to time. I'd love to say that I have time to read every single magazine that comes in,
but you don't.
or every digital subscription that I have, but I don't. So, one of the big things, kind of just like Phil said, is I spend a lot of time making sure that A, I'm using stuff that I know works, but B, I try and read the stuff that I know is going to directly affect me. And as much as, I think Engadget is cool, most of what they're talking about never really affects me. So I might skim through it, but I'm not going to read every blog post and, every review that they bring out on every piece of equipment, gear, or whatever. And that's kind of the same for everything else.
Okay. Richard, what is it that's on your reading list?
Well, aside from doing this for 20 years professionally, I still love this stuff. I'm a fan. It's if I wasn't being paid for it, it'd be my hobby. So for me, it's obviously all the standard publications. Rave is now one of my new favorites. It's the fastest way, especially like the videos that they provide. It's a quick, 1 minute amuse bouche of the company that they're speaking with.
I have to steal that.
Yeah.
And
Rich, tell them who you stole it from.
Actually, I used it before, but yes, I also read, and of course he's gonna give me nothing but grief over mentioning him. But John Shiaka's writing, he writes some great stuff. He writes for Sound and Vision, all of the trade magazines that are out there. But surprisingly enough, where I'm getting a lot of my information these days is from Twitter.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that.
It allows me, if I see that it's trending. Especially, with the AV Tweeps hashtag or AV News or, any of the AV related hashtags, if it's being retweeted, is that the word?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still new to social media, so I don't have all the lingo down. But I found that it's definitely my quick. Oh, I must. I got to read this. 3 people have already said, "Hey, you got to read this." Well, gosh, I got to read it. And I use, I'm a big fan. I'm a voracious reader. So for me, my first part of my morning and the last part of my evening, I use aggregators. So I'll use Google Reader, and I've got 10 or 15 different trends, and then I just go quickly through them as much as I can and consume as much as I can within a given time. And I like that because there's the ability for me to at least go back in an archive if I've got a couple of minutes here and there. And I can't go without mentioning Julie Jacobson. And CEO, who is the new ESC grand dame of AV. Just her stuff is just phenomenal. And so I tend to follow them, and Resi Systems as well. Because again, my primary focus is residential, so I keep abreast of the pro side. But my focus is definitely resi and high end. So I'm a stereophile guy still. I'm an absolute sound guy. I'm the guy who will sit and read about $15,000 speaker cables or interconnects and go, wow, this is awesome. I'm kind of weird that way, but I dig it. Because I love music, and so for me it's not only the technical side, but learning about even just the making of music. And the entertainment side and the movie side, and so pretty much anything I can get my hands on. But I've got some staples, and my new way of getting it right now in terms of my hot list is Twitter.
Oh, very good. Sarah, you are at Rave Pub, so beyond the 15,000 publications you guys have, how is it that you get information?
Well, like Richard said, I consume a lot of information. I read other publication stuff, but Twitter has really become my main source. I check it multiple times a day and see what other people are saying, and I pick up new bloggers that way, and sometimes we invite them to blog with us. It's really the best way to find new content. And
Vergosadesign.com.
But yeah, that's probably my best. It's morphed into the way I get immediate news, really.
It's a good way. I think that'll be it for us. I read Rave Pubs probably once every 2 or 3 days, and I am just like you guys. I do the Twitter thing and search on the AV News and also AV Tweeps is where I get most of mine. Do you guys have anything else? Anybody?
I got a little something.
Yeah.
I got a little something. I do, Tim.
Oh yes. Hang on.
All right, here we go. Tim and AVWeek bring the savoir faire. We're busting out discussions, this and that, what, where. Dropping true insights, and that stuff's rare with Rave Pub's Uncle Richie and Matt Scott's hair.
Nice.
Very nice.
There's no way to follow that. With that,
Yeah.
With that, we'll
I
go
think we're
around.
done.
You can find Sarah Abrams at Rave Pubs. Matt Scott is, of course, at Matt Scott's Hair on Twitter, but you can check out his website, Omega Audio Video. Rich Fragosa is R.A. Fragosa. What is your website again, Rich?
it's fragosadesign.com. One word.
Okay. And Phil is the AV Professional. You can find all kinds of videos and blog stuff on his website as well. I'm Tim Albright. I thank you for listening, and thanks for checking out AV Week.
Tim and AVWeek bring the savoir faire. We're busting out discussions, this and that, what, where. Dropping true insights, and that stuff's rare with Rave Pub's Uncle Richie and Matt Scott's hair.